I'm Diego Sanchez, COO of HW Media, and this is 10-Minute Talks, where I have a quick, informative conversation with leaders at companies that are growing during this difficult housing market. My guest today is Brian Zitin, CEO and co-founder of Reggora. Brian, welcome to 10-Minute Talks.
Diego, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Really great to have you today. Before we dive in, could you give a 60-second intro for yourself and for Reggora?
So, as you said, my name is Brian Zitin. I'm one of the co-founders of Reggora, the CEO. I started the company when I was a senior in college at Boston University with my college roommate. And, our mission is to streamline and automate the appraisal process as much as possible. So we provide workflow software to banks, mortgage lenders, credit unions, pretty much anyone who is lending a mortgage and needs to get an appraisal done. And, we make it happen better, faster, cheaper.
So you co-founded the business during college. What excites you about entrepreneurship more broadly and specifically the valuation space?
What I love about entrepreneurship is basically, being in control of your own destiny and seeing something make forward growth and progress day to day. And, just being able to look back over the years and see how much you've accomplished sort of thing. So I like working on the same thing and seeing that forward progress. And then, I was interested in real estate. The valuation of it specifically, it's like, one of the biggest asset classes in the world, if not the biggest one, the most meaningful to the average person's net worth. Yet the valuation part of it is usually very archaic. And so it was one of those issues where it's like, really big impact and, stodgy kind of older industry that could use some new tech.
It's one of the most engaging topics right now on HousingWire and Real Trends, two of our HW Media publishing brands. Why do you think this topic is so top of mind right now for the housing professional?
I think two things. One is we just came off pretty bonkers years, right? In terms of like 2020 and 2021, maybe the first couple of months, 2022, in terms of mortgage volumes. And it made it, for anyone who didn't already realize, but it made everyone acutely aware of how slow the appraisal gets in times of busy times and how much it can derail a deal. And it really throws off the whole like modern mortgage process for folks. So everyone is, now that it's kind of slower, people are reevaluating their tech stacks and looking at how can I improve appraisals. So I think already people have the scar tissue from the last couple of years of how bad and frustrating appraisals were. And then on top of that, you have the GSEs coming out with these new appraisal products that have never been done before to really change the industry. And, given the appraisal is going to seemingly be that kind of last mile of the mortgage process, everyone I think is interested in to see where the future of it goes.
Yeah, you mentioned the GSEs. Fannie Mae has taken a bunch of recent steps to reduce valuation requirements in some cases, and is even running a pilot that removes appraisers from the valuation process with a couple of different vendors. What are your thoughts on the recent moves by Fannie Mae?
Yeah, and just to clarify, no longer a pilot. Like, it is official. It's happening. I don't know when this will come out, but April 15th, so pretty soon here. And I'm super excited about it. I think that it kind of was a natural reaction to, like I said, the frustration. A lot of folks who have been, deep in the industry believe that some of the core issues come from the lack of supply of appraisers. And what these new products allow the industry to utilize is getting a valuation or confirmation about the valuation risk of the property without having to use an appraiser and using an alternative workforce. So, that's where I think a lot of people, it's a controversial topic, but I think that's where a lot of people kind of miss the mark, where the appraisal is not necessarily solely utilized by the lender to gauge exactly what the value is, right? What it really is for the next level is to gauge if this loan doesn't perform and we have to foreclose on the property, how much of that can I recoup? And so in a world where we have low default rates, very creditworthy borrowers, you can get away with not having the most pristine valuation on 100% of transactions, and you can do pretty well with using these alternative methods.
So you mentioned it before, appraisal turnaround times were a big headache during the housing boom of the last couple of years. Probably less of an issue right now, but certainly I'm sure people are addressing the issue in their tech stack for the next big run. Do you think that these moves by Fannie Mae tackle part of the problem, most of the problem? Like what else do you think needs to be done to address those tough turnaround times?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not most. I think it's some, because of the, call it 100% of loan transactions, only, well, I guess we'll see, but at least preliminarily, it seems like it'll be a minority percentage of the transactions that will actually qualify for these products, whether it's like a true appraisal waiver or one of these newer products. It'll probably still be, less than 20-30% of transactions. So the majority of them are still going to require that full appraisal. And so, what needs to happen is streamlining of actual workflow processes. You'd be shocked to see a lot of the actual inside operations of some of these lenders who are like, manually initiating appraisal orders, like following up with appraisers. It's just very manual and not super sophisticated. And so bringing technology into the equation, using algorithms that do the distribution for you, using proper pipeline management, having enough vendors, all these sort of things will help deal with the fragmentation of the industry. But fundamentally, it's one big logistics problem. You have about 40,000 active appraisers and millions of transactions that need to get done in a year. You need to match them to the right one at the right time and resolve any issues that pop up as that happens.
So getting back to Reggora, what's your growth strategy during our current difficult housing market? And also, what are you doing to prepare for the inevitable next boom?
I think we already had a lot of interest even kind of during the craziness. And then, like we said, the big lenders now actually finally have time to breathe. So it's like, okay, now let's get around to that process. So, I think we're just kind of keeping doing what we're doing. We're, the plan is to deliver the most streamlined appraisal experience we can possibly do. We've invested literally tens of millions of dollars into the technology. And so, it's kind of more of just like, the better we can make the appraisal experience, the more we're going to grow. And so, we think about it more from the product standpoint and less about, the market. Appraisal is always going to be a problem, whether it's high volume, low volume. Even right now, even though turn time isn't as big of a deal, people still have issues with appraisal payments, operational efficiencies top of mind. You have to deal with all the vendors. So there's a, infinite list of problems associated with stuff that isn't just turn time related.
So you've dug in from a technology perspective into appraisal. How does that link into what the lender is already doing in their LOS as they push a file towards completion?
Yeah, well, we certainly interact with that. Like, if the LOS is kind of the central, manufacturing hub, it's crucial for us to be able to be able to interact with that. And so, a lot of triggers, milestones, workflows can be either directly embedded within those systems or triggered from it. And so, yeah, we don't kind of live in our own little world. If a lender is using Reggora's system, we're plugging in deeply into that LOS and, building out as much automation and integration as possible.
Brian, really appreciate you joining me today. This was a really interesting conversation. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.